and the chef specialist, Chef Francois. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So I'm going to try to make sure I'm in the right spot here because I'm standing today. Anyways, welcome to welcome. I don't know how I say this, but welcome to our new family of the Advantage program within Sysco. And we're really happy. I'm trying not to say super excited because I say that all the time and I'm going to have people like threatening my life. But we're very happy to have you on the show today and be able to talk about the Food Forward program and really what it all is. And I think it's phenomenal and super excited to talk. I said it. We're excited to do that today and talk to you guys live about what it all means. So let's just jump right into it. And let's get right into talking about what the Food Forward program is. So who wants to, Francois, do you want to start off with this? And how long has this program been running? And let's chat more about it.
Yeah, Forward Food. It's a culinary resource program. We're here for institutions and businesses, and we help them with the growing demand for plant-based food. So not a lot of chefs and food service professionals have the training for plant-based food in their background. And this program helps with that. It's been doing it for years, since 2017 in Canada, and it started actually in the US. It's our affiliate, the Humane Society of the United States, that started it in 2015. It started out of demand because Harvard University approached them asking for resources for plant-based food, and they put together a great program with an executive chef, and it's been rolling ever since. We've worked with schools and institutions all across the country.
Awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about plant food and forward and plant-based food, and why is this such a big movement now? Do you have the answer, Chef? Or Rihanna, do you want to jump in on this?
Yeah, Chef can answer too, but I'll happily jump in.
Okay.
So yeah, why is it important? Well, we've known for a long time that there are a lot of benefits of eating more plant-based foods, right? And that's what's really driven up the demand in the last few years, is people looking to eat better for their health, looking to eat foods that are better for the environment, looking to eat foods that are better for animal welfare, also trying to save some money sometimes. And we see this reflected in things like the new Canada Food Guide, right, which really encourages more consumption of plant-based foods, especially plant-based proteins. So we've known for a while that there's a lot of benefits from eating this way, and that it is really a much more sustainable and healthy way to eat a more plant-based or more plant-forward diet. And what's interesting is this has become even more important now in the wake of the pandemic and COVID-19. And I think that's for two main reasons. So on the one hand, you have the public health perspective, because we recognize that even though COVID-19 originated in a live animal market, it could have just as easily, and future pandemics could just as easily come from industrial animal agriculture. So they present quite a significant risk for diseases to spread. Plus, because they do contribute a lot to environmental degradation, that is also driving the risk of diseases up. So there's actually a really great report that came out from the United Nations Environment Program last week, which talks about how do we prevent another pandemic. And they say in the report that there are several unsustainable human activities that are driving the risk of pandemics up. And one of those things that we're doing, human activities that we're doing that are increasing our risk of disease, is the human demand for animal protein around the world. And so by eating more plant-based, we can hopefully reduce our risk of something like this ever happening again. Plus, it also helps individual health, right? So plant-based eating or plant-forward eating can help to prevent or reverse even some conditions like certain cancers or diabetes or heart disease or obesity, all of which seem to exacerbate the severity of COVID-19 when people do get it. So it can also help us to be more healthy and resilient when these kinds of new diseases do emerge. And then also just from a business perspective, right? Of course, we've already seen that the demand for plant-based food was rising before the pandemic started. And that interest seems to have only increased because of people being concerned about food shortages or different issues that have been exposed because of COVID-19. And one great example we saw was that the sale of tofu and other meat alternatives rose 52% in the first 6 weeks or so of the pandemic. Meanwhile, fresh meat sales only rose about 30% during that same time period. So it's a really great time for businesses to be able to take advantage of this new and more increased demand for plant-based foods. And since they tend to be lower cost generally, it's a good opportunity for businesses if they want to try to make plants a bigger focus of their menu. They might be able to save some money and recoup some of the costs that they've lost over the last little while.
Yeah, we definitely seen that in some of the millennials and the different generations that are really, I would say, pushing this along as well. Do you see different generations that are really pushing the plant-based diets more, or is it now everyone? It's not specific, is it nowadays?
That's a great question. It definitely is. We see more people who are maybe identifying as vegetarian or vegan are typically in the younger population. So millennials and Generation Z definitely are eating more this way. In general, they tend to be groups that are more likely to make value-based purchasing decisions across the board. So not just for food, but they're likely to look at, okay, what are the environmental impacts of my choices? What are the labor impacts of the things that I'm buying? What are the animal welfare implications? All of these different things. Are they GMO, right? They consider all these things a lot more. But what's interesting is that even though people who are more likely to be vegetarian or vegan are typically a little bit younger, what we're seeing is that the Flexitarian trend, where people are just looking to simply reduce their intake of animal proteins and replace some of them with more plant-based options, that is across the board. And that's actually even a lot of older Canadians are making those kinds of choices primarily for health reasons. So it really is something that we're seeing in people of all ages that are looking for more of these kinds of options.
Yeah, you know what, it is, and it's I find it fascinating because I really believe as restaurateurs that are looking to put more plant-based foods on their menu, it really allows our chefs and our culinary people to try a new area. And it's I don't even want to say to trend anymore. And I frankly believe that it's a whole new category that we get to play with now. And the amount of food options, we've seen that before from chef. We've seen it from other companies that we work with, coming up with these amazing ideas and beautiful food that we typically probably wouldn't have played with if this wasn't something that came into our world right now. And the more and more that we learn about it, the more that we know what we can and do. It seems like it's growing, and the speed it's growing, and the quality and the taste and everything is just coming right around. It's amazing. So let's talk a little bit about the resources and all the amazing stuff that you can do to support a chef. Let's talk a little more around your area. What's that all look like right now for our customers and around the Food Forward program?
Well, ultimately, we're here to support the goals of the organizations that we work with when it comes to plant-based food. So we've got tools to help them succeed and work towards these goals. We can provide culinary trainings, recipe menu development, educational sessions. We've also got a lot of data for marketing practices and greenhouse gas emissions. Obviously, these days, the in-person trainings aren't being offered as often as they used to be. They're on hold with COVID, but we're working on creating some online training programs that everyone can access from anywhere. And on top of that, we already have a lot of resources available online through our website, which you can access through the Sysco Advantage program. We've got a whole plant-based toolkit. We've got a list of vendors and manufacturers for plant-based products. We've got all the recipes that we use. There's dozens of them specifically for food service that you can scale to whatever need you have. They're easy to prepare, and they're made specifically for food service professionals.
That's really cool. So this must cost a fortune. How are you funded, right? How's this all work? How are you funded?
Well, I can take that one. Yeah.
Poor
Be
chef's
happy
like,
to.
oh no.
Well, actually, that answer is the answer to this question is a lot more positive than people would assume. So we're a nonprofit program run by Humane Society International Canada and supported by Friends of HSI. And we're actually funded by really generous donors who share our vision for building a more sustainable and more humane food system. And so the best part of that for the people that we work with is that all of our services are actually completely free of charge. So we, when we're traveling to do events, for example, or to run culinary trainings or do any of the things that Francois was just talking about, we cover all of our own costs associated with doing so. The only thing that we ask for our the organizations or the businesses that we work with is for them to provide any of the associated costs, maybe with running an actual event. So, for example, if we're doing a 1 to 2 day culinary training, we would ask that they just provide the groceries for that and the space to do it. And sometimes there might be a need for like a dishwasher or something like that. But we cover all of the other costs, all of our resources and everything are completely free of charge. And the only thing that we ask for beyond that is some kind of measurable commitment in exchange from the food service operation to make their menus more sustainable by offering more plant-based options, just so that we know that the resources that we're putting in are contributing to a positive change.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Just outstanding that you're able to provide those this resource and it doesn't cost other than some commitments. It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's awesome. So let's talk about our partnership now that we have with you with our Sysco Advantage program. How can our customers benefit from working with you guys? And how does this all work at these times right now where the world is kind of turned upside down? Francois, do you want to jump on that one?
Perfect.
Yeah, I would love to. Our resources right now, the resources that we can offer through the Sysco Advantage program are incredibly valuable. Rihanna just touched on this. There's a rise in demand for plant-based products. And even though these are trying times for the food service industry, beyond that, there's incredible opportunity to revisit and reimagine a lot of facets of our industry. It's a perfect time to develop new and exciting food products to meet this demand. So with that in mind, our program brings to the table all of the assets that we can use to help our partners produce these new plant-based products, bringing them to market in all sorts of different ways and making the menus more plant-forward. It's a really great time to build back after COVID and make this industry and the economy just more green, more plant-forward, and better for everyone involved.
You know, I totally agree with you on that. And I'm very excited about this as well. So let's talk a little bit about, now that we got you in our Advantage program, which everyone can go to Sysco.ca, go to the Advantage site there. We've got tons of resources up there, and everyone can see our Advantage partners that we have, and you guys are up there. And we're going to be advertising and talking more about what you guys offer as through our social channels and everyone else. It's just so excited about this. So I want to talk a little bit about the experience in working with food operators that you have in the past and all this in Canada. What's that look like, Chef? Let's jump back to you on this.
I love working with a variety of operators. I've had the pleasure and the luck to work with people all across the country, and it's always a really positive experience. Everyone seems to recognize that this is not just a trend, it's a movement, and it's something that a lot of people need to adapt to this demand for plant-based food. So we often get a lot of great feedback when we work with different food service operators. In the months before the pandemic, we worked with culinary students at Vancouver Island University. They have a culinary school there, and the reception was incredible. It was just great because everyone's conscious that this is a growing need for plant-based cuisine, but culinary schools don't always have vast modules to offer them. So for us to come in and to work with students that are up and coming in the industry, I mean, it's a really great fit. And we've had the pleasure to work with tons of institutions, big schools like UBC, Queens, and McGill. We worked with La Prep last year, and we added lots of plant-based food to their menu. The reception is always really great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, especially when you start working with the institutions and universities and stuff like that, really getting their ideas and their innovation ideas around this is outstanding. It's so excited about this. So I want to throw it back to Rihanna because I got a question for you. Not that you guys prepped me or anything. Everyone will be like, why are you so proper today? But I do want to talk a little bit about the risks. What happens if a restaurant, and I know the answer, doesn't pay attention to plant-based food and the trends within this category in this area? What happens with risk right now from a business aspect?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it really ultimately comes down to demand, I think, right, Jay? So we talked a little bit about how this is less of a trend and more of a movement now. And we see a lot of numbers about, there was a study in 2018 that said that over half of Canadians were looking to reduce their meat consumption within the near term, so within a few months. And a lot of people now have adopted a more, like we talked about, flexitarian approach to eating, and they're looking for more of these foods. Plus, about 10%, so about 1 in 10 Canadians are either vegetarian or vegan. So whether you have a flexitarian or a vegetarian or vegan, if they're looking for these kinds of options, and you have, for example, a group of people who are going out to find a restaurant to eat in, especially now as things start to open up again, if a business or a restaurant doesn't have at least some accessible and appealing options for people who are looking for some of these choices, then you might lose business to that veto vote, right? Because that group just won't come to your establishment if they have some of these needs or these things that they're looking for, and you can't cater to that. So ultimately, if it's a restaurant or an institution that we're working with, if they don't take these kinds of demands into account, they do run the risk of potentially falling behind and losing business. And businesses, I think, have been quite fast to adapt to this trend, right? Or this movement, this growing demand, whether it's like smaller independent restaurants or the big global fast food chains that we see. These plant-based options are everywhere now, right? They're so easy to find.
Yeah,
and so exactly, right? Whether you go to like any of the big food companies, like the Subways and the KFCs of the world are offering these kinds of things, and the smaller independent places. So if a business is not adapting to this movement, this change, then I think they're losing that opportunity that comes with that increased demand, and they're losing the opportunity to be more innovative, right? You talked about it, Jay, the fact that I think in a lot of cases, the plant-based options we see are a lot more creative, or they're really interesting, right? Because they're relying on new ingredients, or they're kind of pushing the boundaries a little bit. So it's a great chance to get consumers excited. And as Francois was saying, we have an opportunity now to build back after COVID and to build back better, hopefully, and to shape a food system that is more sustainable and more resilient, and better able to ensure that everyone has access to enough nutritious food. And so if we have businesses that are not staying ahead of this, I think that they might fall behind.
Yeah, you're right. So here's a couple things I'm going to mention, because here's my 2 cents on this. And I got to get in here. So let me chat on this, because here's a couple things I think is important. Is one, I think plant-based foods is some of the most beautiful foods out there. And beautiful food is Instagram worthy. And who takes pictures of those kind of things? Millennials. Actually, my generation now too. But everyone takes a picture of our food right before we eat it. So I know, and that helps with marketing and branding of the restaurant. We know that generation, we love social media and food, and plant-based, I think, just does a great job. You don't really typically take pictures of gravy, right? So not that there's anything wrong with gravy,
No,
but usually typically don't. You take pictures of beautiful, bright food, and plant-based is always bright and beautiful. So I do think there's a connection there within relationship to menus, plant-based, social media, all those things. Younger generation that loves dining out more than anyone in the past generations ever. So there's a lot of beautiful kind of links there, and beautiful tie-ins that I think operators from a business aspect will miss out on opportunities. These huge corporations are doing it for a reason, and it's to make a lot of good money, right, in this area. And they're profitable. Like these items can be profitable, especially if you're making a lot of them from scratch. Great stuff. Even the stuff that is pre-done is coming down in cost just because there's more demand, as you're talking about it. So I think it's exciting because it's doing what's right for the environment, to our bodies, to all these different things out there. We've known this for years. And it's not that we're saying don't eat meat. It's incorporating this into your diet more. And, I'm a flexitarian, proud flexitarian. But it is something that I've incorporated into my world in the last year and a half. And it's made a huge difference, except when you break your ribs. But so anyways, I got to ask some questions here. So I know that you want me to ask Francois this, but I need to ask you too, Rihanna. What's your favorite recipe or ingredient to cook with when it comes to plant-based? I'm putting you on this before Francois.
Before. Well, I might. This might overlap with one of his answers, because I know we both really like this way of cooking. So there's one of the recipes that we have is a crabless crab cake, and it uses hearts of palm, or you can use a few other things as well, but hearts of palm really well imitates the texture and the mouthfeel of crab. And all of the seasoning that goes into it, it includes some like nori flakes, so some seaweed flakes to give it that bit of a fishy flavor. And it's definitely one of our most popular recipes in the culinary trainings that we do, because a lot of people who make it, they've only ever made traditional crab cakes. And when they try it, 9 times out of 10, they say it's indistinguishable from a regular crab cake. And it's just delicious. So that's certainly one of my favorites.
Okay, so I'm going to guess, Francois, before you say anything. Okay. Cauliflower wings.
You're close. I really do like bite-sized food. And when it comes to plant-based food, actually, when it comes to all food, my favorite recipes are the tried, tested, and true ones. And falafels are really high up there. People often think of plant-based food as a very modern thing, and we think of all the innovative stuff that we've been talking about, right? But there's tried and true tested dishes that have been around for a long time that are plant-based and are delicious. And a good falafel is one of my favorites.
Oh man, I would have went with the cauliflower wings. We just had those the other day with you. They're awesome. But yeah, no. So I have to tell you what mine is, because
not cauliflower wings.
well, you know what? I do like broccoli. Like I do love broccoli, like in cauliflower wings. I'd have to, you know what? I'll throw that on there. I won't talk about some different kinds of burgers that are out there now. I love jackfruit. I am a huge fan of jackfruit sandwiches or burgers, whatever you want to call them. But using that product with a little bit of breading and frying it up, so you make a beautiful non-chicken sandwich or plant-based chicken sandwich, I guess. Unbelievable. And you're starting to see more jackfruit come into retail, so more and more people. It's been around for, I'm going to say, hundreds and hundreds of years, but it's really how we've been playing with it more and more that we understand it now. So there's my favorite food, jackfruit.
Nice. Good choice.
Would you have guessed it, eh?
I was going down the cauliflower road, but I think you picked a great one.
Awesome. So on that, let's part ways with one last message before we wrap up today. And thanks again for being on the show. It's been a pleasure. So let's talk about. So you want to say one thing to all these people out there? What would it be, Rihanna?
Sure. Yeah. So, well, thanks, Jay. I want to start by saying thank you as well for having us. We love the Advantage program, and I think it's great that you offer all of these resources to different restaurants and different food service professionals. So we're really happy to be a part of it. And if I had to leave one parting message, I think it's really that this is ultimately the future of food. It's not maybe 100% plant-based, but I think we're seeing a change for the long term where plant-based or plant-forward eating is going to be a huge part of the way that we just live. It's gone away from being trendy to just being an actual shift in the way that we think about food and our eating habits. And I think it's here to stay because there's, like we talked about, there's so many good reasons to eat more of this way. And it's becoming easier than ever to find options wherever you go, more delicious choices that were previously not available. And so I think that already had a really good foundation. And now with the pandemic, I think we're going to see even more people start to critically question the way they eat and shift away from animal proteins a little bit more out of concerns about, the risks of public health or sustainability or that kind of thing. And so I think it's a really neat, again, opportunity for businesses as things start to reopen. And I think we're going to see a lot of shifts as people, try to get customers back in the door and find new ways to engage and set themselves apart. I think this is a really, really great opportunity. So it's here to stay. So I hope that everyone can find a way to adapt. And like I said, we're here to be, or like Francois said, we're here to be part of the solution and to help. So please take advantage of our resources so that we can help you stay relevant and stay competitive.
Wow. That was good luck coming after that one there, Chef.
I'm just going to say
thank you, Rihanna.
Thanks for having us on.
Sorry?
Oh, just a big thank you to Sysco and to you to put this together. These shows are great. And I'm looking forward to doing another virtual kitchen show with you next month.
Sorry, I drank some ginger beer this morning. Not beer, but ginger beer. Just make sure that's clear. and it's spicy. But so I'm choking. Anyways, no, it's absolutely, and I'm super excited to just be able to have you be a part of our customer solutions, chef, and what you guys are doing here with the Forward Food Program. Um, we tend to sometimes take it all on ourselves, especially restaurateurs, to try to get these solutions out there and try to help ourselves and to be able to provide the solutions and services we do with Sysco. Um, we want to make sure customers feel that they're not alone in this journey, especially in these areas when you look at plant-based. It's sometimes you get a lot of publications or reports. I'm not a huge fan of reports because unless you do something with them, they're just a beautiful someone put a lot of work together. And anyways, unless you do something with them, that's a different story. But I'm more big. Let's get some action. Let's learn this. And to be able to have customers be able to reach out to you guys and to understand and help them with what they're doing, look at different recipes. I think it's huge. I really do. And I really appreciate it. And I'm very happy to have you guys a part of our Sysco Advantage program. And let's have all of our customers call you and bug you and utilize this resource. I think it's huge for us and for our market and for Canada. So thanks again so much for being on today's show and being a part of our program as well.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Awesome. So, Chef, we'll see you soon. I know
That's
we
right.
will. Yeah, we'll see you soon, and we'll have you back cooking out of your awesome kitchen. But for everyone else, we're going to continue bringing live shows like this. We have another one tomorrow with Weston Food Service, and we're going to be showing recipe ideas and all that good stuff that they're going to be showcasing. Then we also top off Thursday with Ole Mill, and then we start our Taste of Edmonton live show that's going to be streaming across Canada for 10 days straight, interviewing lots of restaurants and hearing their story of what they've been dealing with over the last 4 months. So that's going to be so cool. And you'll have to tune into that. But on that, thanks again, everyone, for your time today. All the best. And we'll chat with everyone soon. And have a great rest of your day.
Sounds great. Thanks, Jay. You too.
Goodbye.